Hey, how's it going, guys? Ancient Ruin here, back with another Wonderlands build video, and today I'll be going over Casey Bob and I's Brr-Reaver build called Bloody Frostbite. This build focuses on maximizing Blast Gasp damage with spells to deal some insane damage. Blast Gasp is a double dipping skill that takes the base damage of your spell hit and then multiplies it by the ability damage formula. This build acts similar to the usual Deadshot build, but also a bit different, making it a fun alternative spell build. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The save file will be found in my Discord, which is linked down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. And for the gear here, you technically really can use any gun. We just use it for an enchant stack stick. We use shell casing rings here optimally, so having a gun that can be kept at low ammo is good. I just have an idle line here from my Deadshot build, but the crit parts don't help at all here in this build, so that doesn't matter. So I could be holding like a skeet rod, even a Stavomatic. Literally does not matter. If you aren't using shell casing, it definitely doesn't matter. Literally any gun can be used. Something you could use though is the Fear Not guns with wings, or just kind of you could use pixies if you wanted to. You'd want to use spell pixies, just something that can be used to stack faithful thralls and can be kept at low ammo still just from shooting it, and then using the faithful thrall stacks if needed. But if you don't have shell casing ranks, you can just throw them for faithful thrall stacks. And then I have a delusion for the lightning and frost bonus. This is used when using frost and lightning spells, of course. Just good to have on hand. And then for the enchant, you want to use either action skill active or spellcast elemental damage or element type, matching the element of the spells you're using. And then for the melee weapon, you're going to want to look for weapons with the Archmage and Ancient parts. These are for getting back your spells and action skill, as that is very important here for keeping them up, as they usually kind of can have some longer cooldowns here. It depends on the spell though. The main one I like to use is the Twin Soul, as this has both of those parts available. The element does not matter on it, nor does the Chaos tier. You'll want to get something with spellcast or active skill active, elemental damage, and then some other stuff you could use is a pickaxe or spell cooldown just in there. Some nice movement speed for ability, and then some skill cooldown. Just kind of a nice second thing. And then you also have Spellblade for higher crit chance, but then you suffer cooldown lies either in spell or action skill. A peg leg is also really nice for movement speed. Snake stick can be used to create faithful thralls to boost your damage. Frying pan is good for survivability, and then mage staff is good at dealing some damage in a wide area and good for low health enemies. But that's mainly because it can proc Blast Gasp, but I really don't care too much about that, but a fun option. And then we used a Cursed Wit here. This is for getting the most damage out as we can for the 100% conditional damage. Some other stuff you could use is a body rune or a static charge. This is for better survivability. If you are having trouble with staying alive, then you'll want to use one of these two here. I like to use the low health enchant for better survivability. It does give damage, but that's not the reason for it. And then here for the artifact, you're going to want to use either a sacrificial skeep or theurge. I like to use a skeep for better survivability, and then a theurge for better getting back cooldown. Either or will work. If you're using a more defensive shield, then maybe theurge could be better. What you're going to want to look out for, though, mainly is getting Graveborn power on these, as it will boost Blast Gasp damage, And then getting action skill cooldown rate can be pretty nice on here. All damage will be peak damage, but since we have so many ways of getting all damage in different spots, you don't really need it as much. But if you are lacking it in certain areas that we do take, then all damage can be more important. But I like to use action skill cooldown rate to get back Reaper Bones faster. And then for the element, you just want an element match. I mainly use one spell, so I just go frost damage, but it's literally whatever you can. And then for the spell, we have the Frozen Horde. Here is the main thing I use. The spells we want to use are stuff that hit a bunch of times, may it be multi-pellet or just last in those like lingering. Since Blast Gasp is a percent chance, doing a specific spell to get like as high damage as possible with say a laser hand isn't very reliable. Since it's a chance, you'd have to shoot it a bunch of times. So Frozen Orb is really good at this because it has a lot of projectiles going out. I really like getting crit chance here, but since it's technically doesn't need to crit to deal the big damage, getting spell charge and extra projectile are definitely more important. But the crit chance is still noticeable with critting, just not as needed. Some other options are like getting cooldown rate. The enchants I like to use are spellcast ability damage and spellcast all damage. Ability damage ends up being better if you have plenty of all damage, but otherwise I would use all damage as that will double dip. Some other good spells here are the Wicked Gossip. It can roll extra projectile parts and ricochet, so it has good chances of proccing Blast Gasp. Arcane Bolt has multiple charges and projectiles and has a small cooldown, so it'll deal less damage but hit a lot. You also have the triple ice spikes, as it will come out a lot and have multiple projectiles. And then the Dazzler spell and the Twister are also really good. I have a Twister on here right here, but I don't have a Dazzler. But they're both things that just hit a bunch, so they'll deal good damage. All right, and then for the armor, you're going to want to look for either Graveborn Clawbringer power or Grave for Blightcaller power with as many Blast Gasp points as possible. I've messed with, as you can see here, with like 3 points, and it still does really good. I actually gotta get rid of that. And then you'll want to look for passives. Like area damage is really big here. I don't have it anywhere else because I don't take it in skill tree. Um, and then spell damage is also really good since we don't have spell damage in many places except for like rings. So getting that spell damage there is really good. And then movement speed, since we're using selective amnesia, or all damage can be really good. Some other things you could get is ability damage and spell crit chance. But the main thing you're going to want to look for is area damage, as it's the only source of area damage, and spells and Blast Gasp are area damage, so that'll be double dipping in there, just being a pure mult. And then you're going to want to ideally look for selective amnesia. Since we're using Reaper of Bones, it will be constantly damaging us, proccing selective amnesia, so we'll have constant uptime on that. Some other stuff you could use is the Tyrant's Truth. You'll sacrifice your companion for 35% spell card boost damage. So you want to make sure you get the spell version of it. And it's just really good, big damage boost, as well as getting the Amalgam Cape of Tides or the Warp Paradigm. Amalgam just has a lot of passive. Cape of Tides for easy soaked application, and Warp Paradigm for converting spell damage into melee and ability. That'll be so your spell damage will just boost Blast Gasp more. But really, just any armor will work well. You don't need to have selective amnesia. Just some stuff will synergize less, and you'll want to look for all damage more. But ideally, you want to look for that. So I'd say the main thing to look for is points at Blast Gasp, area damage and selective amnesia, and then probably movement speed to help with that selective amnesia. And then Tyrant's Truth being 35% is good, but it only applies to the spell and not the Blast Gasp, so you aren't double dipping that, where selective amnesia is double dipping global damage, which is a big part of this. And then for the rings, ideally you are going to want shell casing rings, but that is the least of your priority. You're going to want to get spell or ability damage on your rings. Ideally spell, but ability damage isn't bad. Then you want to look for spell crit chance and spell crit hit damage, as well as action skill cooldown rate to be on there. Action skill duration doesn't do anything since it's based off of your health. Getting duration doesn't affect it. So those are the main three things you're going to want to look for it. The only other beneficial ring really is the dungeon thumb cuffs. But besides that, a purple ring will work fine, or just anything that won't hurt you. We have Faithful Thralls to get all damage. We have Essence Drain for the spell cooldown. We have Sanguine Sacrament for survivability for the health regen. 15% max health per second for 2 seconds means 30% in total. We have Dread Covenant here. Now, if you are using Tyrant's Truth, then you don't want Dread Covenant as it's a wasteful point. You can put it in Stain of the Soul or Dark Pact. Then we have Dark Hydras. These are to give Faithful Thrall stacks. We have Stain of the Soul here, but this is basically a dumb point and can be put in Dark Pact. Or if you want to use some companion stuff as well, you could put it in Harvest with like the Pixies or Guns with Wings. Then we have Ascension for the spell damage. This is really good and will give up to 60% spell damage, which is huge. And we have Blast Gasp, a double dipping skill. It cannot crit, but it will benefit from crit damage from the base hit. And then we have Morham's Blessing to keep up our kill skills like Ascension and Dark Hydra, which are really, really useful here. And then we have Unyielding for survivability to keep up Reaper of Bones. It says missing health, but when enraged, it actually gives some max health regen, which is really good. And then just 2 points in Ancestral Frost. It'll be double dipping elemental damage, so it's nice. Then I only have 2 points in Old Ways, so I can get points in Blood Frenzy, and I only make the sacrifice because I am using the Cursed Wit. But if you aren't using the Cursed Wit, then I would take some points out of Blood Frenzy, or take points out of Cold Snap if you are not using the Selective Amnesia. Then these Cold Snap points are a bit less useful. They're still nice for gaining Icebreaker, but still just having any Icebreaker is huge. So I definitely prioritize Old Ways over that. So then we have the 3 points in Icebreaker. This is a pure molt. It's just the closer you are to freezing an enemy, the more damage you deal. So even just slightly cryoed will have a bonus damage. Then we have Unarmored Defense. This is to get more shield to health. This is just better survivability, and that's why I use the capacity part on Cursed Wit. Even though you want your shield to be empty, having that base start out take longer to break is fine, because then you'll just keep having it low and the shield broken because of selective amnesia. And so having that more health is really useful. And then we have the Blood Frenzy for restoring health, which is really good, but again, can put it in Old Ways. And then Cold Snap for more movement speed for selective amnesia. And then I have a point in Relentless Rage for having better survivability with Save Your Soul. In the background, I don't remember the name of it, but I use the one that gives +8 intelligence. But mainly I go max spell cooldown and max ward, and then the rest into skill cooldown. Crit damage can be nice, so can crit chance, but not really that big here. And then you'll see we don't have any Berserker power because it doesn't really help us much besides giving more frost bonus element, which isn't needed at all. I hope you guys enjoyed the build video. This build is really fun and unique that I had fun making with CaseyBot. Not using Spellshot is different and a bit of a challenge, but I love a good challenge, and this made some fun gear choices with tons of synergies. Again, you can find the save file in my Discord, which is linked down below, as well as my other socials. If you haven't, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.